Hello everyone, I am your host Ahad Hussain and welcome to Season 4 of Titan Alumni Talks, a weekly podcast where we talk to alumni about their experiences at Cal State Fullerton. For this week's episode we have Melissa Romo, who is the Assistant Dean for Student Affairs. She graduated in 2014 with a Bachelor's in Communication and Media Studies and received a minor in Human Services. Listen as we talk about her experiences at Cal State Fullerton and advice that she now has to give. You can catch these episodes live at 11 a.m. on Tuesdays at titanradio.org, or you can watch all past episodes on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/CSUF Alumni. Thank you so much, Melissa, for joining us on the podcast today.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
I wanted to start off with your time at Cal State Fullerton, the first being that you got your Bachelor's in Communications and Media Studies, right? And a minor in Human Services. So you started that in 2008 and you finished that in 2014. So let's just start when you started off at Cal State Fullerton. Why did you decide to get that Bachelor's in Communications?
Well, honestly, that actually wasn't my first degree choice. I actually chose Cal State Fullerton for their music program. And I wanted to go in as a music major. And I even think somewhere my transcript still shows up as a music major. That I think after a while of exploring and really getting to experience what other degrees there are out there, I at some point even decided various other degrees like psychology. I even forgot which other ones I was entertaining. But at some point, I still really loved the entertainment industry, the music aspect of it. And I really wanted to pursue kind of doing like nonprofit organizational work within the entertainment industry. So some of them look like, the USO's Salute the Troops, like Live Aid in 1985, like those kinds of like large events, like those were, I think, really interesting to me. And so that's why I chose the entertainment and media and tourism concentration. And so communications just really had that one for me. And for me, it was a degree that I could have used anywhere too. And so it just really spoke to me at that time when I was a freshman here at Cal State Fullerton.
So when did you kind of make that switch, or when did you sort of decide that, hey, maybe music isn't for me and I might be looking to something else? Was that right after your first year, or was it later on at your university career?
It was definitely within my first year. For me, it was like I really wanted to keep music as my own personal passion. Although I enjoyed it, I did it a lot in high school. I didn't know, at some point I started questioning if that was a career choice I wanted to make. And so that whole first year just kind of felt like a lot of exploration, even though I wasn't really taking a lot of, classes in a major. They were mainly all GEs. I felt like I really needed to make that decision at that time.
So You did spend a couple extra years at Cal State Fullerton, a little bit more than the norm. And then since you do work at Cal State Fullerton, just as like a preface, you might be familiar with the Finish in 15, sort of where the school wants everyone to take 15 units a semester. And then after 4 years, you'll complete all your required 120 units. So you did a minor, plus you did switch a major. So sort of what is it to take a couple extra years, and is it bad in the long run, or was it easy to transition when most of your friends would be graduating at that time? So just tell me a little bit about what it was to take those extra 2 years.
I actually share this a lot with my students. I was a first-gen college student, and I think for me that really impacted my decisions. I know I definitely didn't go to advising as much as I should have, so I took classes I didn't need to take. I wasn't making the right decisions, in my opinion. Now looking back, especially as someone who works at the university, I'm like, if I could spare anyone any that's the least I could do. I did spend some extra time, but I don't think that spending extra time is a bad thing. I really don't. I think that it all depends on each person's situation. Sometimes, we do go in high school with expectations of what we want to do, and then all of a sudden things change, and that's okay. I think at the end of the day, as long as you're happy, as long as you are feeling and confident with your decisions, that it's totally okay to spend longer than you think. I didn't do the Take 15 at that time. That campaign didn't really exist. But, I think I have like a love-hate relationship with it, because I do think it benefits students, especially if you can do it, if you're not working and you're able to take the 15, it definitely does help out. But I do think that it can add some pressure to students. And so especially if you are in the position where you're not really quite sure what you want to do, if you're not really, like if you still want to take some time to explore, maybe get involved in campus. So those kinds of things do impact your experience. And so for me, I did communications, and again, like I said, I took the wrong classes. I probably took extra classes I didn't need to. I actually graduated with extra units aside from my minor, but it was towards the end of my minor, at the end of my communications degree, that I decided to add a minor. So I added my minor pretty late. I want to say within like the last couple semesters, and that extended me like that extra semester. I did take a stop out semester at one point, so that impacted my extended time too. So I think everyone's situation is very unique and very different. Yeah, I think I spent a lot of time getting upset at myself for taking too long when I shouldn't have.
But you did decide, like you mentioned, you just did decide to get your minor later on, sort of at the end, nearing the end of your time at university. So why did you feel it was necessary to get that minor?
Honestly, I loved communications. I really loved my experience in it. But I think I was starting to go through a career change, wanting to really explore something different. And I think it all came from my internship experience for communications. So we had a required internship. And I found a department on campus that really fit what I was looking for. And my husband was in the military. And so it ended up working out that the Veterans Resource Center had an internship for communication students. And so I think that experience was really pivotal for me because I really started to see the value of the human services world. And I think that's where I decided to start exploring what that could look like. And I knew that with a communications degree, I wasn't really quite sure how I would be able to fit it in, that I wanted to at least add a minor. Because even previously, like I mentioned, I wanted to do nonprofit work. I was really kind of, and even psychology, I was pulled towards some of those classes. So I had already taken some of those. And I was like, well, why not add the minor? I actually did some courses already for it. It's only going to extend me one semester. So for me, it was kind of getting that experience in that field, especially because I felt so late in doing a career kind of transition that I felt I needed to get that experience in somehow. And so that really helped me, that I ended up doing my second internship required for my minor at the Veterans Resource Center, but in a different capacity. And so that kind of really set me up to where I am at now. And to some extent, I think it does work. I think that the communications field and the human services field can work very cohesively. In fact, I think that it can definitely help benefit each other. Because I think it brings perspective to communications world and to the human services world about the communications world, that I do get to use that in the regular basis.
So why are you deciding to go back and get a master's?
To be honest, after I graduated from CSU Fullerton, I really wasn't quite sure what my next steps were, because like I said, I kind of changed my ideas of a career last semester essentially. And I didn't want to jump into a master's program not really knowing what I was going to do, right? Because at that time, I had just graduated my comm degree. That for me, naturally, if I wanted to get a master's, I wanted to go, to the comm master's degree. And so that just didn't sit well with me. Although I appreciate the work, I appreciate the field, it just didn't feel like that's the field that I was going to go into 100%. So I honestly took the time to really decide what I wanted to do. I probably spent over a whole year going through courses in different universities, going through different majors, really exploring what I wanted to do. So I took the time to do that, which is why I took that break. But I did get hired by the Veterans Resource Center at that time. So I was really lucky enough to start working immediately and on campus. And so that was really fun. And for me, I started really seeing the kind of work that could be done. And just kind of those 2 years really started to narrow down the field and the kind of skill set that I wanted to have. So even though I'm technically not in a traditional social work position, the fact that I pursued the skill set that I wanted to have to work within a social work field really does add to the work that I bring to currently. And even at that time at the Veterans Resource Center, because we're bringing in, more of the mental health aspect, more of the systems aspect, the psychosocial, support. And so that really was to kind of what ultimately led me to decide into a Master of Social Work degree, with the ability to also, if I wanted to pursue, and I do want to, getting licensed clinical, my license in clinical therapy. And so it definitely kind of gave me the best of both worlds, the skill set, the versatility of the MSW, and that I still want to pursue that in the long term in my career. That degree kind of really gave me that.
So you do work at Cal State Fullerton, and you did kind of get that job right after you graduated. So how was the flexibility with working and getting your master's? Were they a little bit lenient with it, or was it a little difficult to fit it into your schedule, or how did that work?
They were very lenient, but I didn't have, I think that I had a lot of passion for the work that I had at the Veterans Resource Center, that I didn't want to like take up too much time of my work time there. So it all did fall in like evening classes, weekend classes. And I was lucky enough that USC does have a lot of flexibility with that. Their MSW program has a pretty large cohorts, so they don't really do the small cohort system. So it allowed for some flexibility in choosing my classes. It was probably one of the most difficult times in my life, having to work full time and doing my MSW full time, just because the MSW program does require the additional 1,000-hour internship hours. And so there was that flexibility with the center that allowed me to do some of my hours with certain projects there, and the USC to allow me to do that. I think at some point I was doing 16, so I was working full time, doing 20 internship hours a week, and I was going to 5 classes a semester. And so that was like extremely exhausting. I still to this day don't know how I got through it, but I'm so glad I did it. It was really eye-opening experience for me.
And then that kind of is reminiscent of a lot of things that is done at Cal State Fullerton, where they do require some internships that you have to do, especially in a lot of comm majors or things with public health. And then that kind of gives you that real world experience. And instead of just like sitting in a classroom listening to a professor speak, it kind of gets you out there and make sure that you do have that work experience. So once you graduate, you are able to sort of get in the field and know what it's like to go ahead and work. So it's really nice that a lot of universities are doing that as well, making it a requirement to work and to get that experience before you graduate.
Yeah, and even for students that don't have the required internship, I highly recommend them to take it, because it really is, like you said, like this life experience. You graduate with already having work experience, and for those that it is required, I recommend students to usually use that as an experience to help you narrow down what you want to do, right? Try exploring the different parts of that career aspect, and see if it's what you want to pursue. Either way, you're still going to graduate with real world experience. And so why not take advantage of that in doing some career exploration with it?
And I've talked to other people in the past who have done internships early on in their time at university. And with it, a lot of people come to realize that maybe that major isn't for them, or they want to deviate in that field. They might still like the overall idea of it, but maybe the specific thing they were so focused on is not what they currently want to do anymore.
Exactly.
So just doing it, there's like no risk and a lot of a reward for it. It's just a little bit of time. Yeah, some of them are unpaid, but for the experience that you do get and the value that you get from it, it kind of is really worth it. So to anyone who is listening, an internship is something that you should go out and do. Maybe not 20 hours a week while working full time and going to school full time, but at least part time, maybe over summer, over winter, and then just see if something fits.
Anything really does help. And again, it goes back to, it really does give you that diversity experience. And again, you get to graduate with that experience, knowing that you have that already, versus most other students that don't have that internship requirement or that didn't choose to take one. They're about to step out of college trying to explore all of that when you've kind of already had the opportunity to do that while you were in school.
And then, yeah, if you do graduate and then you realize that maybe that career isn't for you, then you either have to go back to school, pick a different career, or try and stick with it and see if it works. So none of those options seem the best. So getting an internship will make sure that you're not in any of those positions, which is great.
No, for sure.
And then, yeah, even doing clubs as well. I know you did quite a lot of clubs while you were at school, and it seems like everyone except me has been part of PRSSA. That's something that like everyone I know is a part of. So yeah, even doing like these clubs, it kind of gets you connected with other people, gets you the ability to talk with different speakers who come in, and then just get an idea of what that major, that career choice entails in the future, which is pretty nice.
Yeah.
So also since you did start working at Cal State Fullerton right after you graduated, what was it like, and why did you specifically choose Cal State Fullerton for that? Because you did start after you interned, right? So you were interning at Cal State Fullerton, and then you got a job almost directly afterwards.
I did. I actually started interning there at a very unique time because at that time, the Veterans Research Center was not the Veterans Research Center. It was actually just a program under the Women's Center. And I had interned in there for a year already that by the time I was graduating, Cal State Fullerton was at the point of making the center its own space, its own, entity. And so they needed an admin assistant. And so I had already kind of had that experience working as a supporting programming there and getting really familiar with the university system. That when that happened, I applied for it and I got it. So I was really thankful for that. I did work through various different positions at that center for a while. I was there for about 6 years. And why Cal State Fullerton? Honestly, a part of me felt that I really missed out through all my years. I was a traditional commuter student. I just got to campus, did my classwork, and I left. And I didn't start getting involved till about towards the end. And I kind of felt like a part of me really regretted that I should have done it sooner. And so it almost felt like I was trying to make up for that missed time by really getting involved in my job. And so I think that's where I saw most of my involvement really rise up there.
Yeah, with commuting and everything, it does kind of take away from that college experience, especially since Cal State Fullerton is that commuter school. It is a little difficult to try and be involved in campus, but it is still important to try and make that time. It might seem very fun to just like drop everything and go home, especially after a long day of school. But if there are events that you might want to participate in, it is worth staying on campus a little longer for those events. But it is unfortunate that a lot of us see Cal State Fullerton as a commuter school, and then we kind of do try and go home as quick as possible or get to school as late as possible just for the classes and then maybe work and then go home. But that kind of is a harsh reality that a lot of students face, especially if they do have to work at a place off campus. And there are a lot of students who do full-time at their undergrad because that's the only way they can afford to go to university. So it is a harsh reality, but that is something that some students do have to deal with. But if you are not one of them, then and you can participate in these events that happen after classes or before classes, then it is highly recommended to just get involved and just network with people, just have fun. It's university, you don't experience it every day. It's a short period of our lives, so just see what sticks, see what's fun, and then afterwards, if you don't like it, you don't have to keep going back. There's no commitment to it, right? If that one event is not fun, don't go to it next time. Maybe find another event, or if that club wasn't something you like, just unsubscribe from the mailing list and you're good to go.
Just go somewhere else, right?
Exactly.
I completely agree. And that's literally what I kind of lived with after. I'm like, I should have gotten involved. So I probably didn't start going to a lot of campus events until like that last year when I was interning. And when I started kind of working there was when I started really going to a lot more. And so for me, I did have that regret that I should have done more. I was working for a while, and that kind of really hindered my ability to really get involved too. I worked kind of far. It was in Pasadena. And so, working and then going to school, it just got exhausting. And so I was just like, I'm not going to go to an event. But, once I actually started going, I really saw the benefit of really feeling connected to not only the campus, but to to other students, to the department when I was working there, and it's just a whole different kind of experience you do get.
So you kind of do fit in that category of being the person who had to work, especially if it's Pasadena from Cal State Fullerton. It's quite a bit of a distance. But this is where I would recommend any student who is trying to get a job, maybe a prospective student or someone who needs an extra bit of cash, is find a job on campus, because with it, you do not have to travel off campus. You don't have to worry about that commute time. Plus, I know a lot of jobs on campus have that flexibility when it does come to finals, and just with other things going on campus, that they can find another spot to fill, and they're very lenient with it. So it's kind of nice being in that position. And with it, even if you're not a part of any other clubs and you just work on campus and go to school on campus, at least you get that extra bit of connection with those people on campus, and you're just staying there a bit longer, just to foster those connections, which is also very nice to do.
Yeah, it really is.
So after you graduate, this was your 4 years at university. It is important to keep connected with your university and just make sure that you go to events that you can, especially now that everything's on Zoom. Even if you don't live nearby, it's completely fine to just show up on camera for a couple of hours, and just stay connected. And then I know we do have quite a bit of outreach outside of California, where we do have Cal State Fullerton events that go on. I believe it might even be internationally, but I'm not too sure.
I think so.
We do try and make sure that people in Cal State who've gone to Cal State Fullerton are able to keep connected no matter where they are, which is really nice to see. And then we just have so many alumni, and it's just good to keep connected, especially for the students. And so if you're a student or an alumni, any extra activities that you can do to keep connected to your school is a perfect way to stay involved.
Yeah, especially for alumni that are looking to somehow contribute back to other students. There are so many things that alumni can do, whether it's, maybe volunteer with a department to review scholarship applications. I know some departments have done that in the past, where they open it to alumni. Offer yourself to be a mentor. Get connected with a department that maybe you wish you would have gotten connected to in college, and then, offer to see what you can do, maybe resume reviews, mock interviews, anything like that. I think that alumni can definitely reach out, and departments would be more than happy to take any support that they'd be willing to offer.
And then I normally plug this at the end, but I'll put it now since we are talking about this, staying connected with alumni. And I know you're a part of this, but the Titan Pro Network that a lot of people still are not a part of. It's basically our own site where we can connect alumni and students together. Basically, it's sort of like LinkedIn, and you can use LinkedIn to sign up. With it, you can find alumni and students with your degree or who are majoring in that degree. And then with it, they're able to do the exact things you just said. They can review resumes, they can host workshops. If any student needs an alumni to come for their club or speak at an event, it's very easy to find them, because they put what they're open to do and willing to do. And especially now that everything's on Zoom, it's really easy to plan everything and to make sure that everyone is involved. So it's a really good way, and I recommend any alumni and student who is just thinking about, how do I get that next internship? How do I know if this career field is for me? Or how do I give back to my university? Titan Pro Network is a perfect way to do that, because it answers all of your questions. It does everything that you might want to do, which is extremely nice.
Yeah, I really wish that more students, actually more alumni, knew about the Titan Pro Network, because exactly that. It really does help students get connected. And I've made a couple connections on there, but I still think that if more alumni are connected in there, especially right now, because I do work for a department on campus, I want to reach out to alumni. I want to see who's available. If there were definitely more alumni getting connected together, it would be easier to get students connected to these kinds of experiences, for sure.
It's something very similar to that what we do host as the Cal State Fullerton Office of Alumni Engagement is the Dinner with 12 Titans, where an alumni reaches out and hosts. Well, they don't have to reach out. They just have to host a dinner for 12 Titans. And normally this is done at the host's house, but in this case, we're doing it in Zoom, and we did it at Zoom, I think, for the past 2 semesters, maybe 3. But hopefully, as the vaccines get better, everyone gets vaccinated. In fall, hopefully we will host them in person again. But basically what happens, you're just able to connect with a ton of students and alumni and people in your field, because you get to choose the alumni who speaks to you, and there's so many to choose from every single semester, which is really nice. And then I've gone to, I believe like 5 or 6 maybe, and it's just really nice because you get to choose which alumni you're going to, and then you can pick the questions you want to ask them.
Awesome.
And it's dinner too, who doesn't want food?
Exactly.
So that's the great part about it. You get dinner, and it's just like a great way to chat with them and just stay connected, and then again, building that network and connections, it kind of helps you choose what you want to do in the future because you get to speak to someone who's already been doing it for a while and has already gone through that major that you did and had the same questions you did when you were or when they were younger, and then they already found the answers to it. So again, like stuff like this, there are no losses for trying to do that. It's only rewards and benefits for trying to participate in these events that are completely free to the students. And
I know.
there's really no downsides for it, which is why we do want students to sign up, because it's just so great.
It is, and I think it's there's so many opportunities on campus that I just wish that students could kind of look ahead and see, maybe I could talk to an alumni who's done this. And sometimes and I say we, because I know I was like that, just focused on getting through this one semester, one classes, and I'm back home, that if students could start thinking about that sooner, it would be so much better.
We're going to ask you some quick fire questions, and then we're going to go into some advice that we have for students. All right. So Melissa, we want these questions to be answered very quickly, very rapidly. These are fun questions, and then we'll just get to see what you kind of like with it. So the first one being coffee versus tea.
Coffee.
Which was better, undergrad or graduate school?
Graduate.
Oh, okay. So are you an early bird or a night owl?
Night owl.
Do you prefer the city or the woods?
The woods.
Do you prefer a dog or a cat?
Dog.
Waffles or pancakes?
Waffle.
And a favorite genre of movie?
I would say comedy, just because I love to laugh.
Okay. All right. So tell me about what you currently do now. So you did transition from working at the Veterans Resource Center into being the assistant dean for student affairs. So when exactly did this happen, and why did you just decide to make that transition?
So this happened in 2019. Yes. And this was actually as a direct result of the CSU's GI 2025 initiative. So it's a graduation initiative across the entire CSU system. And so Cal State Fullerton had a program that they wanted to get started around that time for the cohort of 2019. And so the program got started pretty immediately, and it was actually put on the responsibility of my executive director and the AVP, Dr. Clint Michael Renault. And the program is Tuffy's Graduation Scholars. And that program is intended to serve that cohort of first-time incoming freshmen. And so they really needed someone that could help launch this program. And because I had previously worked with my executive director, there was a lot of, what we could do together to get this program started pretty fast. And so I just did it as an interim position in the meantime. So at that time, I was actually working at the Veterans Resource Center and in this position. And so just to kind of help launch it. Once the position opened up officially, I decided to interview for it. And so that did go into a full-on interview, just because I really did see how Cal State Fullerton was making the effort to provide equitable student services. Not saying that was when they started, no, I'm just saying that in this program, I really appreciated it. I really got to get involved with the students already from the beginning. And it really was a program that I felt I really connected to, because I did have very similar, if not exact, identities that a lot of the students in this program have. And so for me, applying for this position really allowed, I had just finished my master's. It really did allow that, that next step in my career. I had been at the Veterans Resource Center for over 6 years. I really did see this as a great opportunity growth, not only for myself, but how else I can contribute to the university. And so currently in my role, I do serve as as a part of the team of the assistant deans of student affairs on campus. So each college has their own assistant dean. And so even though I'm not connected to a college, I am connected to this program. And I do very similar work that they do in their colleges. We provide a lot of biopsychosocial support to students. So whether that's immediate support services that they may need, connection to resources, connection to engagement. We provide a lot of support, programming, events, engagement events. We really try to advocate for our students, whatever it may be, however we can support them. And so it's the assistant dean team is a very, I think, very unique and really just, I think, an amazing team. I think they all help the colleges in such amazing ways that I can't even describe in like a single, hour-long, meeting. I think that they do so much good work. And so I'm really just happy to be part of that. I do help and get students connected to each of their colleges in that aspect as well. And so, yeah, I think that kind of really quickly sums it up.
It is great that Cal State Fullerton has a lot of students that come from diverse backgrounds where we're not just, and that kind of like ties into California and Orange County as a whole, where we do see people from all different backgrounds, which is fantastic. And it's nice that there's a lot of inclusion at Cal State Fullerton at the student, staff, faculty level, which is amazing as well. And then, just making sure that students do graduate, that we do come in with that intention and we do leave with it, even if it takes a couple extra years, or there might be a gap year. It is still nice to just know that we have like good graduation rates and everything is fine there. So there's a lot of like behind the scenes that maybe a lot of students don't see. They just kind of think, okay, there's a president, there's registration, and then there's the faculty. But in reality, there's a lot more that goes on behind the scenes that kind of just make sure that the wheels are running, the cogs are running, and everything just goes straight. And then everyone is happy, It's kind of like the job of everyone who works at Cal State Fullerton, that everyone is happy with like the career or the major that they chose, the classes that they take, how everything is going for them. So
exactly. And I think that that's one of the things that I hope to do in my job. And at least I know for the team that we try to provide the resources to students that we didn't know of when we were students, right? And so how can we, and this is kind of where the communications comes in, how can we get that message out there that there are people on campus dedicated to supporting your success? Just do not be afraid to reach out, right? And so that's kind of what we also work on a regular basis.
And then, so talking about this and your position, what is some advice that you see that students should have, or you think a lot of students are missing out on that they should know about?
Okay. So one of the first things I know for me, I dealt with this a long time, was dealing with imposter syndrome. So I know that often as first-gen students, that can definitely find its way into our academic experience. And so for me, I definitely do want to let students know to start addressing it sooner than later, change your mindset. It often finds a way to impact the decisions you make, and it impacts your engagement you want to make on campus. It even finds its way in your career. And so, just know that you are enough, you are worthy of this space, and own it. It'll definitely make your college experience a whole different experience. And that kind of leads to the next, is just using your resources. Like you mentioned, some students just imagine that it's the president, the vice president, maybe like if the faculty and registration and all of that. There are so many departments out there that are ready to help you, that they have the resources, the information, and the support. That all students have to do is just go in and ask. Send an email. It's okay, and the worst thing that you get is, I honestly don't even know, like most departments, at least the people that I've worked with, and we try to be really supportive, that if we don't know the answer, we'll try to make a referral to someone else who might. And so I would definitely tell students not to be afraid to seek out any support. And even if it's in your classes, don't be afraid to talk to your professor. Don't be afraid to go to SI, to supplemental instruction. It benefits you more. And there's nothing at least I don't think that there's anything you'll lose from just asking. And other resources that I think are really great, or even just like we mentioned earlier, talking about internships, starting to think early on about the careers you want to pursue. The Career Center has tons of resources to start exploring your interests, your strengths, who you are, because this will then help you explore, what are your contributions, right? What are the things that you are passionate about, which ultimately helps you determine what are the things that are adding to your life, what are making you happy, what are bringing you joy, and that can help you determine the kind of careers you want to get into, the kind of jobs you want to pursue, the kind of experiences you want to get in college, right? And so I think that just taking that one step, going into those resources can definitely support more than hinder, for sure.
And I feel like that's kind of like a common theme that we've been talking about in the podcast, where a lot of things that you can do on campus are completely free to do. All it just requires is a little bit of effort or a little bit of time. These are like the internships, the clubs, reaching out to alumni, and then finding out different resources on campus where, including like SI, where you don't have to pay or do anything special for any of these. There's no commitment. All you have to do is just spend a little bit of time to find these resources, which are pretty readily available, and just take your time to go to these resources and just get that help from it. So a lot of these things that are available on campus, some people might not see, and sometimes it's at no fault of their own if they do have to commute, if they have other obligations, and they do work maybe some distance away from campus. They don't really get that choice, but I know a vast majority of students can fit at least a little bit of their time into these things, which is just something that I guess we as like a whole university should work on, just making sure that it is completely inclusive to all students and everyone has like the same opportunities and equitable opportunities, where it's not like just that one person who does have more time than the others is able to take advantage only, and that everyone is able to, regardless of like the background, the income, or anything like that.
Exactly. And even if, anyone listening out there does fall into that situation where they are working, they are contributing to their household in a different capacity that they can't, or that keeps them from engaging on campus, that's okay. I talk to students often that feel like they're missing out on a college experience because they're busy helping out their siblings, or they're working and they can't get as involved. That's okay. I really recommend students to get involved to their best capacity. And even then, they already have skill set that probably other students don't have. And so not to see that what they're doing right now is not really helping them, if in fact it actually could be, and it most likely is. I think that students need to be able to see that what they're doing also is helping their own experience and contributing in different ways. So not to compare themselves, for sure, because someone else's experience is not your experience.
And then, again, like comparing yourself to other people, there are 40,000 people on campus. It's going to take a lot of comparisons to find someone who looks like you. So instead, just focus on what you can do and what you want to do. And sort of, if anything, just look at it as a good point that, hey, this person is doing something similar, but they're also able to do this. Why is that? And maybe I can do something similar, instead of just saying, oh, this person has more time, this person doesn't have to work. Exactly. Why do I have to do this? Life is sometimes not the greatest, but that's kind of life at times. We try and make it equitable, but just like life in general is kind of difficult for everyone.
It is, and we're never going to win that comparison game. We're never going to win. And that kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier. Just if you can work on some way changing your mindset to, I'm not enough, or I don't have this, or I don't have access to these resources at this time. Start thinking about it exactly like what you said. This person might be different. What can I learn from them? How can I try to incorporate what they're doing into my life, right? If I can, if any. Just if you shift your mind, if you shift your mindset from like a comparison to more of a learning, it takes away all that pressure that you're putting on yourself, or that we tend to as humans. Why can they do it and why can't I? I think it really does open ourselves up to being kinder to ourselves, for sure.
And that kind of also ties in with the whole imposter syndrome and having a growth mindset instead of a fixed mindset, where if something doesn't go well for you, maybe figure out how you can fix it. And if you can't, then try and fix something else. Not everything in life can be fixed, you know? And then instead of just like maybe being down on yourself all the time and saying, oh, my life sucks, my life, I'm not able to do this, I suck at this, I'm not good at this.
Yeah.
Instead, think about like what you are good at, what skills you do have, and how you can apply them. And just see where your skills fit, because everyone has skills. Like no one was born without the ability to do anything. People have that ability. They just gotta find it. And for some, it's easier than others. For some, you gotta work on it. Take those internships, join those clubs, reach out to those alumni, and find out is there a place where you fit in society and in life, and something that makes you happy, and what you kind of like to do, because that's kind of what life is. Just be happy and like what you do in life.
Exactly. And you're totally right. Well said. You know, I mean, I guess I'm going to do a really quick shameless plug. And if you don't know where to go to your assistant deans. They are very well connected on campus. Each college, again, has one. Go to your student success team, and they are more than happy to get you connected to campus departments that may be able to answer any of your questions or concerns. And so again, there are resources out there for you.
And then just to end it off, I just want to know some general advice that you had for students going into your field. Maybe they're trying to get that minor in human services, or they're majoring in communication and media studies. So are there any like tips or any bits of advice that you have to give for those students?
Yes, honestly, explore, because even for me, I didn't know that. For me, thinking social work I just thought it was, child services when I was younger. Child services, that's kind of what it tends to kind of be for most people that think about social work. It wasn't until I really started exploring how social work can impact so many different kinds of industries, so many different kinds of places. And even in communications, there are so many things that people can get involved, but I think it just takes that further step in exploration. And really kind of narrowing down the work that you want to do. Like you said, finding fulfillment, finding joy, happiness. What is a job that, or what is the kind of work that you want to do that will give that to you, and then start looking for the jobs out there that can fit with that. When it comes to social work, people get surprised that I have my master's of social work and I'm working in education. And so I really do tell people that it is very versatile. So if students do want to pursue, whether it's a career in human services, there are so many fields out there that can benefit from the education you get at Cal State Fullerton in human services, that I think it just takes some creativity in being able to find those kinds of positions. So definitely exploring, and that kind of goes back to the internships, right? I know for human services majors, you're required to take 3 internships. Use those to help you define the jobs that you want to get. Right? If you want to, let's say, pursue a job with local nonprofits, and your first one, maybe try a local nonprofit, see if that is something that you want to do. Maybe you want to try a different one, like use those experiences to explore the various career fields in there, because then that way it'll help determine what kind of work you want to do, maybe who you are as a professional, what are your own limits, what are your own passions in it. And so, it just really does take that exploration, and finding mentors, finding alumni to help facilitate those conversations is so useful. I really wished, I think that's one regret that I have, is that I didn't really get to do that. I did that kind of as I just stumbled all over my career, I felt, trying to figure that out. And so that, I think, and even professors love being able to talk to students if they want to go into certain fields that they've been in, right? A lot of them have experience, and some of them are even currently in the field working. And so definitely reaching out and be willing to explore a lot about your own self and who you want to be in the workforce.
So that's an excellent bit of advice. And just one last question to end it off is, do you have a favorite memory of Cal State Fullerton, whether you were a student or now that you're currently working there? Is there just one thing that you fondly remember?
I think I have so many. I honestly, I know you asked me earlier, was it undergraduate or graduate? I chose graduate because I think that just felt more like a definitive experience for me. But I think working at Cal State Fullerton, I have had the ability to connect with so many students, so many staff, and so many alumni now, that I have been able to build long relationships, I think, that I never got to do in my undergrad. And so a lot of my favorite memories do come from me working at Cal State Fullerton, and a lot of them have been with being with students. And so it is really hard to determine one, because I've been able to do so many things that I never thought I would, just getting involved on campus as a staff member.
So like we mentioned previously, again, I'll just like shortly plug it here. The Titan Pro Network, it's a fantastic way to connect alumni and students together. So any alumni, any students listening to this, and it also applies to faculty and staff, just being able to join it and just see what's on there. Again, it is another free opportunity that we do provide. Just requires a couple of minutes actually just to sign up and get approved, and then you can see everything on there, everything we offer on there. And again, it's something that has no risk and sort of just only upside, which is again one of the themes that we talked about in the podcast. And yeah, so if anyone wants to talk with Melissa, I know she is on there, so you could go ahead on Titan Pro Network and shoot her a message, ask her any questions that you do have. And yeah, so again, Melissa, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast today.
Thank you so much for having me.